Commander Alara Vance had survived asteroid storms, pirate ambushes, and 2 engine failures that should have killed everyone on board. She was known across the fleet as someone who did not panic, did not freeze, and did not imagine things that were not real. That was why no one knew what to do when she said something had come into her ship while she was asleep. The survey vessel Aurora's Reach drifted quietly between stars, far beyond any settled system. Its mission was simple: scan a dead region of space where gravity twisted strangely, record the data, and leave. No signals, no life, no danger. At least, that was what every model said. Alara had gone to sleep expecting nothing more than another dull night cycle. She woke up knowing she was not alone. At first, she did not move. Years of command had trained her body to stay still when danger was unclear. Her eyes remained closed, but her mind raced. The air felt wrong. Not colder or warmer, just heavier, like the silence before an explosion. She listened. The hum of the ship was there, the soft vibration of the engines, her own breathing, and something else. Not a sound. A feeling, as if attention itself had weight, pressing down on her chest. Alara opened her eyes. The cabin lights were dim, set to sleep mode. But her room looked normal. Bed, locker, data console. No shadows out of place. No movement. Still, she knew. She turned her head slowly. There was nothing at the foot of the bed. Her pulse began to rise despite her efforts to control it. She had faced armed enemies without fear, but this was different. This was personal, intimate. Whatever it was close enough that she could feel it. "Ship," she said quietly, keeping her voice steady. "Report any unauthorized presence." The AI responded instantly. "No unauthorized presence detected. All compartments secure." Alara swallowed. The pressure increased. Then she saw it. Not a shape, not a creature. More like a wrongness in the air, bending the dim light slightly, as if reality itself did not want to look directly at it. It hovered beside her bed, unmoving, watching. She could feel that, watching inside her head. Every instinct screamed at her to move, to reach for the emergency alarm, but she could not. Her body felt heavy, pinned in place by invisible hands. The thing leaned closer. Images flooded her mind. Dars collapsing, ships drifting empty, sleeping figures that never woke up. And beneath it all, a single clear thought that was not her own, alone. The pressure vanished. Alara gasped and sat upright, her heart pounding hard enough to hurt. The room was empty. The air felt normal again. The ship hummed peacefully. She triggered the alarm anyway. Crew members arrived within seconds, weapons ready. Engineers, security officers, medics. They searched every inch of her cabin. They found nothing. No signs of intrusion. No energy readings. No biological traces. Nothing on the cameras. The medical officer ran scans on Alara herself. Brain activity normal. No signs of poisoning or neural interference. Stress levels elevated, but not dangerously so. "You probably experienced a hypnagogic hallucination," the doctor said gently. "It can happen during deep sleep, especially in isolated environments." Alara stared at the far wall, jaw tight.
"I was awake," she said.
The doctor nodded politely, the way people do when they hear something they do not believe but do not want to argue about. The incident was logged. The official note read, "Sleep-related psychological event. No threat detected." The mission continued. Alara continued doing her job perfectly. She gave orders. She analyzed data. She joked with the crew during meals. No one could find a crack in her performance. But when night cycle came again, she stood outside her cabin door and did not go in. Lieutenant Harris noticed first. He had served under Alara for 3 years and knew her habits well. "Commander?" he asked, Everything okay? Elara hesitated, just for a moment. I need shared quarters tonight, she said. Harris blinked. Is there a system failure? No. Security concern? Not officially. That was all she said. Word spread quickly. Commander Vance, the woman who had once slept through a missile alert because she trusted her ship that much, did not want to sleep alone. The crew did not ask questions. Humans rarely did when instincts were involved. A temporary arrangement was made. Elara slept in the auxiliary rest area with 2 other officers nearby. The lights stayed slightly brighter than normal. Conversations continued until she finally drifted off. Nothing happened. She slept deeply for the first time since the incident. The next morning, she woke with a strange mix of relief and unease. Relief because the pressure had not returned. Unease because part of her knew exactly why. It did not come when she was not alone. Over the next few days, Elara avoided solitary rest completely. She scheduled overlapping sleep shifts, shared lounges, anywhere that someone else was nearby. The ship's non-human crew found the behavior confusing. Several species aboard Aurora's Reach did not sleep the way humans did. Some entered brief rest trances, alone by instinct. Others shut down parts of their nervous systems without losing awareness. To them, fear of sleeping alone made little sense. During a routine briefing, one of the alien science officers asked directly, "Commander Vance," it said, its voice calm and curious. "Is your species' rest cycle impaired by solitude?" Elara paused, choosing her words carefully. "No," she said, "but sometimes solitude attracts things you don't want noticing you." The alien accepted the answer, though it clearly did not understand it. What no one else knew was that Elara's dreams had changed. When she slept alone, even briefly, the dreams returned. She saw the thing again, closer each time. She saw places she had never been. Stars she could not name. She woke with coordinates burned into her mind, patterns that made no sense to known physics. She began recording them quietly. An engineer noticed the first anomaly 2 days later. A minor fluctuation in the ship's sensor logs matched one of Elara's recorded dream coordinates almost exactly. "It's probably coincidence," the engineer said. Elara did not answer. That night, she stood outside the shared rest area, listening to the low sound of human voices inside. She felt the familiar pull of exhaustion, the body's demand for sleep. She did not want to go back to her cabin. She knew, with a certainty that frightened her more than the thing itself, that whatever had visited her was still nearby, waiting. And it had learned something important, that humans did not like to be alone in the dark. Commander Elara Vance began to notice the pattern on the 5th day after the incident. It was not written in any official log. It did not appear in the ship's main reports. But it showed itself quietly, in small details that only humans seemed to notice. Whenever Elara slept near other people, the ship remained calm. Power flow stayed stable. Sensors showed nothing unusual. The stars outside the viewing ports looked like normal stars. Whenever she slept alone, even for a short time, something changed. It started with her dreams. She would close her eyes, and almost immediately she felt that familiar weight return, not fully pressing down on her like before, but hovering, testing. In her dreams, she was never alone. She could feel the presence just outside her vision, always behind her, always close. The thing never spoke with words. It showed her images instead. She saw ancient ships drifting through space, their interiors empty but untouched. Beds neatly made, tools still arranged carefully. Entire crews gone without signs of struggle. She saw alien species she did not recognize, their cities silent, their lights still on. Again and again, the same idea pushed into her mind. They slept alone. Elara woke from these dreams, sweating, heart racing, hands clenched tight. She recorded everything as soon as she woke up, writing down shapes, numbers, star positions. She did not tell anyone yet, not because she thought they would panic, but because she needed to be sure. Humans trusted patterns. Humans trusted instinct. But they trusted proof more. The proof began to appear. Lieutenant Harris noticed first. He was reviewing sensor data from the night cycle when Alara had briefly returned to her cabin to rest alone. "Commander," he said during morning briefing, "we had a strange reading last night." Alara looked up instantly. "What kind of strange?" "Very small gravity distortion," Harris said. "So small we would normally ignore it, but it appeared and disappeared in less than 10 seconds. Right outside your cabin." The room went quiet. The alien officers exchanged looks, confused by the sudden tension among the human crew. "Could it be external debris?" one of them asked. "No," Harris replied. "No physical object detected." Alara nodded slowly. "Mark it." "Cross-check it with previous logs." They did. The results made her stomach tighten. Every unexplained sensor fluctuation, no matter how minor, lined up with moments when Alara had been alone and asleep. The ship's AI did not see a threat. It simply recorded numbers. But humans had learned long ago that danger did not always announce itself clearly. Alara requested a private meeting with the human crew members that evening. They gathered in the shared lounge. Engineers, pilots, medics, security officers, no aliens. Not because Alara distrusted them, but because this was something human. She stood in front of them, arms crossed, face serious. "I'm going to tell you something," she said. "I need you to listen carefully, and I need you to keep an open mind." They did. She told them everything. The presence, Shikadis, the dreams, the images, the word alone, the way it disappeared when she slept near others. No one laughed, no one interrupted. When she finished, the room stayed silent for a long moment. Finally, an engineer named Patel spoke. "My grandmother used to tell stories," he said slowly. "Old human stories. About things that hunt people when they're isolated, not bodies, minds." Several others nodded. Humans shared stories the way other species shared data. "So what do we do?" Harris asked. Alara took a breath. "We stop letting it find what it wants." From that night on, humans aboard Aurora's Reach changed their routines. Sleep schedules overlapped more than before. Shared rest spaces became crowded. Someone was always awake nearby, even during rest cycles. Casual conversations continued longer into the night. Music played softly. Laughter echoed through the halls. To the alien crew, it looked inefficient. To the humans, it felt right. The effect was immediate. Sensor anomalies stopped completely. Alara slept without dreams for the first time in days. But the thing did not leave. She could feel that. Instead of pressure, there was tension now. Like a held breath, like something waiting for a mistake. The alien science team began to notice something was wrong when their long-range scans picked up faint distortions in the surrounding space. "These readings are inconsistent," the lead scientist said. "They resemble nothing in our records." Alara stood beside them, watching the data scroll past. "They resemble something in mine," she said quietly. She showed them the coordinates from her dreams. The room fell silent. The alien scientist's eyes widened slightly. "These positions, they should not exist." "But they do," Alara replied. "At least when it wants them to." The scientist hesitated. "Commander, this suggests a non-local intelligence, one that does not obey conventional spatial rules." "In simple terms?" Harris asked. "It means," the alien said carefully, "that it may not be fully inside our universe." The humans exchanged uneasy looks. That night, Alara dreamed again. This time, the thing did not hide. She stood in her dream cabin, fully aware she was dreaming. The walls bent inward slightly, like they were listening. The air shimmered, and the presence formed more clearly than before. Still not a shape, still not a body, but closer to understanding. It pressed against her thoughts, curious now instead of predatory. "You are many," it conveyed. "Yes?" Elara thought back, surprised she could respond. "We are. You are Lao. We survive that way." The presence recoiled slightly, as if confused. Others slept alone. Others were quiet. Easy. Elara felt anger rise, sharp and hot. They weren't weak, she thought. They were just different. The thing paused. Difference ends. Elara took a step forward in the dream. Her fear was still there, but something stronger stood beside it. "You made a mistake," she said. "You noticed me." The pressure vanished. She woke up to voices, lights, and hands shaking her gently. "Commander," Harris said, "you need to see this." The ship's sensors were lighting up. For the first time since the mission began, the AI flagged an unknown presence. Not a physical object, but a distortion so strong it could no longer be ignored. The thing was trying to manifest. Not near Elara this time. In the shared lounge. Alarms echoed through the ship. Humans gathered instinctively, drawn together by fear and training. The alien crew followed, uncertain but alert. The air in the lounge thickened. Lights flickered. A cold pressure rolled through the room. The presence appeared as a ripple in space, larger and more unstable than before. It had not expected this. So many minds. So close. So awake. The thing pulsed, sending waves of pressure through the room. Several aliens staggered, unprepared for the mental weight. Humans clenched their teeth and stayed standing. Elara stepped forward. "You can't feed here," she said aloud. "There's nothing for you." The presence reacted violently, distorting the walls, bending light sharply. "You should be alone." It pushed into every mind at once. Humans answered without speaking. They moved closer together. Hands touched shoulders. Voices rose. Someone started counting aloud, grounding themselves and everyone else. Heartbeats synced. Breathing slowed. The pressure weakened. The thing shrank. For the first time, fear rippled through it. It pulled back suddenly, tearing itself free from the space it had tried to enter. The distortion vanished, leaving the lounge intact but silent. No one spoke for several seconds. Then the alien scientist whispered, "That should not have been possible."
Elara looked around at her crew.
Tired, shaken, alive. "It was," she said, "because we didn't face it alone." The ship drifted onward through the dark, carrying a truth that would change how the galaxy understood humans. Some predators hunt silence. Humans answer with connection, and whatever was out there now knew something new. Humans were not easy prey. They were loud, and they stayed together. The ship did not return to normal after the thing fled. On the surface, Aurora's reach looked the same. Systems ran smoothly. Engines held steady. No alarms stayed active. But everyone aboard felt the change. It was like knowing something dangerous had seen you clearly for the first time. Commander Elara Vance ordered a full ship-wide analysis. Every sensor, every log, every tiny fluctuation from the moment the mission began was reviewed again. Humans and aliens worked side by side, quieter than usual. Sleep routines stayed communal. No one argued about it anymore. The alien crew had felt the pressure in the lounge. They had seen how the thing reacted to human closeness. Confusion had turned into caution. And caution had turned into respect. The lead alien scientist approached Elara 2 days later. "We believe the entity is still present," it said. Not inside the ship, but overlapping our position. Alara nodded. Like a shadow that doesn't belong to one object. Yes, the scientist replied. It cannot fully enter while your crew remains mentally active and connected, but it is learning. That was the problem. Alara understood enemies. You could predict them, outsmart them, but something that learned by observing fear was different. That night, she did not sleep. She sat in the shared rest area, watching crew members breathe slowly as they rested. Some talked quietly, some read, some just stayed awake together. Humans had done this for thousands of years without thinking much about it. Campfires, night watches, shared stories in the dark. Only now did Alara realize how deep that instinct ran. The ship's lights flickered once. Just once. Every head lifted. The AI spoke calmly. Minor power fluctuation. No threat detected. Alara stood. "Seal the ship," she ordered. Internal focus only. The alien officers looked uneasy. "Commander, the entity has shown retreat behavior. It may not return." Alara's jaw tightened. "Predators don't retreat forever," she said.
They wait.
As if responding to her words, the pressure returned. Not strong. Not crushing. Persistent. Crew members felt it as a headache, a weight behind the eyes, a sense of being watched from too many directions at once. The thing was not attacking. It was testing. It probed the ship slowly, pressing against individual minds. The alien crew suffered the worst. Their mental structures were not built for shared resistance. Several collapsed into protective trances, instinctively isolating themselves. That was exactly what the thing wanted. Alara reacted instantly.
"All humans, pair up with non-human crew," she ordered.
Stay close. Speak. Keep them grounded. Humans moved without hesitation. Hands reached out. Calm voices filled the air. Simple words. Names. Counting. Breathing together. The pressure weakened around each paired group. The entity pulsed in frustration. For the first time, it pushed back hard. The ship groaned as space itself warped slightly around the hull. Gravity flickered. Lights dimmed. Alara felt the presence slam into her mind, stronger than before. "You resist," it pressed. "You disrupt?" Yes, she thought back, teeth clenched. That's what we do. Images flooded her mind again, but different this time. Not victims, not empty ships. Herds of minds drifting together. Species that slept alone by nature. Civilizations built on quiet efficiency. One by one, they faded. Order, the thing conveyed. Silence. Alara felt rage surge through her fear. That's not order, she thought. That's convenience. The thing recoiled slightly, as if the idea itself was painful. The alien scientist cried out suddenly, "Commander, it is anchoring to you!" Alara staggered, but stayed upright. The pressure centered on her now. Intense and focused, the thing had chosen her as its point of entry. Not because she was weak, because she was loud. Alara dropped to one knee, breath coming fast. "Don't isolate me," she gasped. "Stay close." Humans crowded around her instantly, hands on her shoulders, voices calling her name. Harris knelt in front of her, meeting her eyes. "You're not alone," he said firmly. "Stay here, with us," the presence screamed, not with sound, but with distortion. Space bent violently for a moment. The ship's hull alarms flared and then died. The thing pulled back again, more abruptly than before. This time, it did not disappear completely. The alien scientist stared at the data feeds, shaking. "It is damaged," it said, "but still adapting." Alara stood slowly, supported by her crew. Then we stop reacting, she said. We plan. A meeting was called. Humans and aliens packed into the briefing chamber. Fear was present, but so was something new. Determination. The scientist displayed a projection of the surrounding space. The entity exists partially outside conventional dimensions, it explained. It feeds on isolated consciousness. When denied that, it weakens. But it also grows more aggressive. So it's starving, Harris said. Yes, the scientist replied. And a starving predator will take risks. Ilara crossed her arms. Then we give it a choice, she said. Leave or choke. The plan was simple and dangerous. Humans would do what they did best. They would gather. Every human on the ship would synchronize their rest cycles. No isolation. No silent corners. Constant low-level noise. Shared awareness. They would turn the ship into the one thing the entity could not stand. A crowded mind. The alien crew hesitated. This may provoke it, one said. It already is provoked, Ilara replied. We just haven't finished the conversation. The plan began. Music played softly through the corridors. Voices echoed. Shared meals lasted longer. Even maintenance shifts overlapped deliberately. Humans stayed awake together, slept together, rested together. The ship felt alive in a way it never had before. The entity reacted immediately. The pressure spiked, then faltered, spiked again, weaker this time. It thrashed against the hull, unable to find an entry point. For the first time, the AI reported something new. Unknown presence, experiencing structural instability. The alien scientist stared at the data in disbelief. It is breaking apart, it whispered. The thing made one final attempt. It reached deep, ignoring the humans, targeting the alien crew again, a desperate move. Humans responded faster. They surrounded their alien companions, anchoring them with voices and touch. The pressure collapsed like a wave hitting solid rock. The entity shrieked silently and tore itself free from the local space entirely. The sudden absence was shocking. The ship felt lighter, quieter. Too quiet. Ilara did not relax. Track it, she ordered. The scientist nodded slowly. We can see its wake. It is fleeing. Not far enough, Ilara said. She stared at the stars, jaw set. We just taught it something, she continued. Now we make sure it never forgets. The alien crew looked at her with a mix of awe and fear. What are humans? One of them asked softly. Ilara did not answer right away. She looked at her crew, at the hands still resting on shoulders, at the people who had refused to step back when fear pressed in. We're the species, she said finally, that doesn't survive alone. Outside the ship, the stars burned cold and distant. Somewhere beyond them, something wounded and afraid carried a new truth into the dark. Humanity was not silent prey. And the dark would never be empty again. The silence after the entity fled felt wrong. It was not the peaceful quiet of a safe ship drifting through space. It was sharp, like the moment after something dangerous runs into the dark but has not gone far enough. Commander Ilara Vance stood on the bridge, eyes fixed on the sensor display. The wake of distortion was faint, stretched thin like torn fabric in space itself. It's slowing, the alien scientist said quietly. Not fleeing at full capacity. Ilara nodded. Because it's hurt. Hurt predators were the most dangerous kind. The ship's crew remained close together. No one returned to private quarters. Even those who normally preferred solitude stayed within arm's reach of others. It was no longer an order. It was instinct. The alien crew struggled more now. Without the direct pressure of the entity, exhaustion hit them hard. Their minds were not built for long periods of shared awareness. Humans adjusted without complaint. They told stories. They talked about Earth, about oceans and storms and crowded cities, about ancient nights where people slept shoulder to shoulder to survive the dark. The sound of human voices filled the ship, steady and grounding. Alara moved among them, checking faces, offering quiet words. She looked calm, but inside she felt the pull again. The thing was not gone. It was watching from farther away. That night, the alien scientist approached her with urgency. "Commander," it said, "we are detecting a pattern forming ahead of us." Alara followed it to the display. Space ahead twisted slightly, almost invisible unless you knew where to look. "It's trying to open a stable overlap," the scientist explained. "A doorway. If it succeeds, it may be able to enter fully." "And if that happens?" Harris asked. The scientist hesitated. "Then our resistance may not be enough." Alara took a slow breath. "Then we don't let it finish," she said. The ship altered course, moving closer to the forming distortion. But every alarm system stayed quiet, but the pressure began to return. This time, it was focused. The entity was no longer testing randomly. It was pushing its full attention against Alara again. She felt it brush her thoughts. Careful now, almost respectful. "You lead them," it conveyed.
"You are the anchor." "Yes," Alara thought back.
"And you chose the wrong one." The thing pressed harder, slipping images into her mind. Not fear this time, but temptation. She saw herself alone on a quiet ship, free of responsibility. No crew, no noise, no weight of command. Rest, peace. Alara almost laughed. "That's not peace," she thought. "That's emptiness." The entity reacted violently. The ship shuddered as the distortion ahead grew stronger. Space folded inward like a wound trying to open. The alien crew cried out as the pressure spiked. Several dropped to their knees, overwhelmed. Alara did not hesitate. "All humans, full proximity protocol," she ordered. "Now." Humans moved instantly. They gathered tighter than ever before, shoulder to shoulder, hand to hand. Voices rose, not shouting, but steady, overlapping speech. Names were spoken, memories shared. Counting, breathing, laughter forced through fear. The ship became loud with life. The entity screamed. For the first time, it showed desperation. The distortion ahead flickered, unstable. The doorway wavered. The alien scientist stared at the data. It cannot stabilize while exposed to this level of shared consciousness. "Then we push harder," Alara said. She stepped forward, closer to the heart of the pressure. Pain lanced through her skull, but she stayed upright. "You came here to hunt," she said aloud, her voice carrying through the ship. "You picked the wrong prey." The entity struck back with everything it had. The pressure surged, slamming into the crew like a wave. Several humans cried out but did not break contact. They leaned into each other, grounding themselves together. The alien crew felt it too, but now humans surrounded them, anchoring them. The doorway tore wider for a moment. Alara felt the thing reach for her mind again, frantic. "Why do you endure this?" it demanded. Alara's answer was simple. "Because we're not meant to be alone." Something changed then. The entity's pressure fractured. The doorway collapsed inward, folding violently. A shock wave rippled through space, rattling the ship, but not breaking it. The thing was caught halfway between dimensions. The alien scientist gasped. "It is trapped!" The entity thrashed, its presence tearing at the edges of reality. It was dying, but still dangerous. Alara felt its fear clearly now. We were alone. It conveyed weakly. We adapted. "And you chose the wrong way," Alara replied. She raised her hand slowly. "All hands," she said. voice steady despite the pain. "Stay together." The crew obeyed. The entity collapsed under the weight of shared human consciousness. Its structure unraveled, unable to maintain coherence against so many connected minds. With a final silent rupture, it vanished. Not fled. Not withdrawn. Gone. The ship drifted forward into calm, empty space. For several long seconds, no one moved. Then the pressure lifted completely. Crew members sank down where they stood, exhausted but alive. Some laughed softly. Some cried. Some simply closed their eyes, still leaning against one another. The alien scientist stared at the now clear sensors. "It no longer exists," it said in disbelief. "You destroyed it."
Elara shook her head slowly.
"No," she said. "We outgrew it. Repairs were minimal. No systems lost. No hull breaches. The ship had survived something no records had prepared them for." As the crew rested together, Elara finally allowed herself to sit. Harris joined her. "You okay?" he asked. She nodded. "I think I will be," he smiled faintly. "You're not sleeping alone again, are you?" "No," she said without hesitation. "Never planned to." Outside the ship, the stars burned quietly, but somewhere far beyond them, the consequences of what had happened were already spreading. Other entities like it would feel the absence, the sudden silence where a predator once existed, and they would learn. Some species faced the dark by becoming quieter. Humans faced it by becoming louder, and the galaxy would never misunderstand that again. The stars looked different after that. Commander Elara Vance could not explain why, but as Aurora's reach moved away from the dead region of space, the darkness felt less heavy. Not friendly. Space was never friendly, but it no longer felt like something was waiting just beyond sight. The crew felt it too. "Aye!" People moved more slowly now, exhaustion finally catching up with them. But there was relief under it, a shared understanding that something important had happened, something that would not stay quiet for long. The alien scientist confirmed it 3 days later. "We are receiving signals," it said during a bridge briefing, "from distant observation arrays. Similar disturbances have ceased entirely." Elara looked up. "Entirely? Yes," the scientist replied. "Across multiple sectors. Whatever that entity was, it was not alone. But its absence has changed something." Harris leaned back in his chair, like removing the top predator from a food chain. The scientist considered this. Yes, that comparison is accurate. The news spread quickly once they returned to Coalition space. At first, it was met with disbelief. An unknown entity that hunted sleeping minds? Destroyed not by weapons, but by people standing close together? Many dismissed it as exaggeration. Others called it a misunderstanding of exotic physics. Then the data was released. Sensor logs, neural readings, alien testimonies, visual proof of a dimensional collapse that had no known explanation, and one repeated pattern that could not be ignored. Every affected civilization had one thing in common. They slept alone. Emergency meetings were called across the coalition. Scientists argued. Strategists worried. Sociologists asked uncomfortable questions. Humans were asked the same question again and again. How did you survive? The human answer was always the same. We didn't do it alone. Elara stood before the Coalition Council weeks later. Representatives of dozens of species watched her closely. Some with curiosity, some with fear. She told the story plainly. No drama, no exaggeration. She spoke about the first night. The pressure, the word alone, the way the entity reacted to human connection. When she finished, the chamber was silent. One of the older alien delegates finally spoke. "Commander Vance," it said, "your species willingly sacrifices efficiency for proximity." "Why?" Alara thought of Earth, of crowded cities, of families pressed together in small homes, of soldiers sleeping side by side in cold places. Because we learned early, she said, that silence doesn't protect you. People do. The council ordered immediate changes. Coalition ships were redesigned. Communal rest areas replaced isolated sleeping pods. Mixed species crews were encouraged to rest in overlapping cycles. At first, it felt uncomfortable to many. Then the nightmares stopped. Reports came in from worlds that had suffered unexplained population losses in the past. For the first time in centuries, nothing came in the night. The galaxy adjusted. Humans returned to being what they had always been: loud, social, inconvenient, safe. Alara returned to active command after medical clearance. The doctors found no lasting damage. They noted increased neural resilience, whatever that meant. She did not return to sleeping alone. None of the crew did. It became tradition aboard Aurora's Reach. Shared night watches. Quiet conversations, someone always awake nearby. Not because they were afraid, because they remembered. One evening, as the ship drifted between missions, Alara sat in the shared rest area, watching stars pass slowly beyond the viewport. Hera sat nearby, reading. "Do you think something else will come?" he asked. Alara considered the question. "Eventually," she said. "The universe is big and dark." Harris nodded, but not quiet anymore. She smiled faintly. "Exactly. Far beyond human space, something stirred, not a predator, a watcher. It felt the absence, like a scar in reality. A missing pattern where something once fed. It observed the noise spreading through the stars, the overlapping minds, the constant presence. And it understood something important. This was not a species you could pick off one by one. This was a species that turned closeness into a shield. The watcher withdrew, marking human territory carefully. Some parts of the dark were no longer worth the risk. Back aboard Aurora's Reach, Alara finally slept. She dreamed of voices, of warmth, of steady breathing around her, and for the first time since that night in deep space, she dreamed without pressure, without fear, not alone. The galaxy would remember that lesson. Some species survived by hiding. Humans survived by standing together. And the dark learned to give them space.